Hello and welcome. Today's episode, I'd like to talk about sort of where I've come from, how much I've grown. I'm someone who works through a lot of anxiety. And again, like roller skating in the parking lot, I can never show you me falling for the first time again. But there are certain ways that the anxiety is encapsulated. And one such way was through my acting class. We had a journal we had to do where we would make entries. The first entry was what I'd like to get from an acting class, where I sort of talk about how I had failed my Calculus 2 course, and so I was looking to just kind of have an in-person class to make up the placeholder. And as we went through the semester and learned concepts from acting, we were taught to take those lessons and then apply them to the real world. So one of the entries is called a GOTE type moment for my life, and GOTE stands for goal, objective, or other, tactic, and then expectation. So you try and like sort of represent the scene as a whole from a character's perspective as an actor, with these ideas in mind, sort of as a second nature. Anyway, to get to the story that I wrote though, again, this was like middle of fall last year. And I was a very different person back then. I've grown quite a bit, and I mean, I am really happy to see the growth I've been able to have, and it's often in thanks to many of you and your support here. So thank you for that, and please allow me to share a GOAT type moment from my life. I was at the deli counter at the Food Lion up the street from my house when my GOAT moment occurred. I love deli sliced turkey, but only if it's cut at the deli. I don't like the packaged lunch meats. Additionally, I have a lot of anxiety in public and around strangers, so typically I avoid talking to anyone. On this day, at this Food Lion, I was going to get deli sliced turkey. At the start of the moment, I walked into the grocery store as I had in the past. I knew my goal, turkey. The initial obstacle I faced was my anxiety, but once that was conquered, there would be another, interacting with a stranger and asking for something. It's a grocery store, so if I stand close enough to the deli counter and look like I'd like to order deli sliced turkey, surely the worker would ask if they could help me. A strong tactic and fitting expectations. Alas, trouble brews as my eyes noticed the variety of sliced meats and cheeses packaged prior to my arrival below the counter. My eyes drifted and soon I was on a diversion. I thought my anxiety had been overcome, but I am an overflowing fountain of anxiety in unfamiliar circumstances. My goal shifted. No longer was deli sliced turkey the priority. I had to get my eyes off the products for sale so I could be approached by the deli man, for surely he believes me to be interested in the packaged meats if my eyes remain lingering there too long. Once I had removed my eyes from the packaged meats and cheese products, I decided this time I would make the approach. The deli worker was doing what deli workers do when nobody is asking for sliced turkey, so I would become the person who asks. Internally, I tell myself I can do this, and a heartbeat later, for any longer, and I would likely find myself darting to a different area of the store out of embarrassment. Words escape my lips. Hey boss, how's it going? Not my best work, but at least it's a sentence. The deli clerk looks to me with complete indifference. He doesn't see the war in my heart at that moment, and he gives me a nod of acknowledgement. Can I get 1.5 pounds of turkey? Is that a normal amount? Is he going to point me to the prepackaged meats below the counter in the cooler? Sure thing. He puts on gloves and begins slicing. The turkey looks premium coming out of the slicer. The fruits of my efforts never looked so sweet, and soon my goal would be accomplished. I waited patiently while the deli man sliced the turkey. He places it on the scale, and the war in my heart begins raging. He's going to ask if it's too much because I see that it weighs out to 2 pounds and a half-pound poultry surplus. And, as if he felt the anxiety coming from me, he looks to me and makes eye contact and says, I got you. Following that, he proceeded to remove 1/2 pound of turkey from the stack, print the label, and put the 1/2 pound back on the stack. He packages it, puts the label on the package, and hands me the goods. I did it. I ordered turkey at the deli counter. The rest of the grocery excursion was standard, but never again will I have to choke down Oscar Mayer substandard meat-style products. I can have deli sliced turkey instead. And so I really enjoyed the experience of being able to go to the store and ask the deli man for sliced turkey. And honestly, being able to make turkey sandwiches that week was so fun. Now, I mean, you guys aren't going to believe this, but I actually have a Costco membership, and so you can go into Costco, and if you like take 15 minutes to sign up, they'll take your picture, and then you can just walk in, and every day for $1.50 you can get a hot dog and drink. But not just for $1.50, you can also get for $4 a chicken bake. I'm not sponsored by Costco. I just, to make it aware, like, I am of course a premium member. Why wouldn't I be? They got the greatest chicken bakes in the world. But I thought that it was interesting that acting was what helped me sort of acknowledge my anxiety as an obstacle in my life, because a lot of times I would try and view myself as not someone who struggles with anxiety. I would try to minimize the amount of sort of things that are impacted by my anxiety, and I have a mostly avoidant personality when it comes to things along those lines because they feel uncomfortable. But acting helps teach me that it's okay to be uncomfortable. We're all in this together in terms of like within the context of a scene, or when you're at a grocery store, what is the deli man supposed to be doing? You know, it's self-evident, but not to me in the condition I was in after my experiences at that time. And being able to work through that and get to the point that I'm at now. I mean, just the other day, I froze up in front of someone while doing a monologue, which you might think, oh, well, that's awful. But earlier in the semester, I froze up and started crying while doing my monologue in front of someone. So it's all about growth, and that growth is relative to the individual who's experiencing it. Maybe one day I'll get to perform a monologue that does touch on emotions I experience without having to sort of like dull myself to the idea that I'm acting in those moments. But for now, it's just a lot of fun to be able to remember that I don't have to carry the stuff that I typically would carry in my day-to-day life. That's all sort of an option, and you make those decisions as you go about your day. Now, maybe some of you are gonna say, well, Chloe, that's just autism. But honestly, the issue I have with my autism diagnosis is that it came at a time where I had already experienced a great sort of turmoil through the military stuff. And if the lens of autism is used to reflect on the military stuff, then it deflects from the amount that I was affected from being trans. And then if the time prior to being trans is assessed, there was very little sort of suspicion or relative knowledge that I was autistic. And if I was that good at masking, can I please just keep masking? Like, I know when I came out I was a little bit of a goofy goober, but like, I don't know. I feel like everyone's a little bit of a goofy goober. That is to say, not that everyone's autistic, but that we all experience the world through a unique lens. No two perspectives could ever be the same. Even in instances where perspective on the world is the only difference between individuals, it still matters because the way the issues are sort of perceived and addressed are relative, again, to the individual who experiences those perceptions. It's nice to be able to have labels when it comes to accommodations, but for someone like myself who requires, I would argue, very few, if any, accommodations, it doesn't really seem relevant outside of trying to understand the mind, which doesn't really serve a purpose outside of self-knowledge, which, again, it's challenging. It's all challenging. Maybe one day I'll talk about it a little bit more, but honestly, it's hard to parse all the different factors at play without minimizing sort of who I am, because so often labels have been used as a means of disregarding who I am. And as someone who likes to avoid things, I can see when the issues are being avoided, when there's like paperwork or discussion and stuff going on. And again, maybe it's my autistic superpower that I can sit and listen and pay attention, but like, I don't know. I think any reasonable person in my position would have been pretty upset with what had happened in the military. And at the end of it all, I'm proud that I went into a grocery store and bought deli meat turkey. I'm proud that I have a YouTube now where I can tell you all about my successes in the military without having to focus on all the bad stuff, because we've been through the bad stuff already. And that just means that when we look forward, all we have is the great fun and like joy of playing Dark Souls. It's truly incredible because, again, the Navy probably isn't my favorite thing in the world, but in terms of where it sits in my life, it is much nicer in the rear view than it was as I was going through it. And I'm incredibly grateful for that fact. Anyway, I just wanted to share that acting has been a huge boon in my life in terms of processing a lot of this stuff. This YouTube has been a huge boon. Being able to interact and share things, and I mean, gee whiz, we're pretty close on the Dark Souls. I think the first Lord we're gonna take down, Nito, because someone asked for the most based Dark Souls location, and you're never gonna guess. It's the one we've been to 3 times. Well, it will be 3 times when we go there again. It's the Tomb of the Giants. You know why we go there 3 times, right? Once for the father, once for the mother, and once for the child. Hey, pinwheel, huh? Little Dark Souls reference. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the little story. If you at all relate to having sort of social anxiety, I hope you're doing well. I mean, be sure to go outside. There is a lot of good out there, even though there's a lot to be afraid of. And it's hard not to think of the things we fear in life when the things we fear are what shape our perspective and how we navigate the world. So I think the easiest switch to flip is try to approach the world with a sense of love for the beauty that we're surrounded by, rather than a sense of fear that that beauty will one day get taken away. I once was a Buddhist many moons ago, and one of the aspects of that I really sort of stick with is the temporal nature of sort of happiness. It all moves in flows. So we can't ever have consistent happy days without ever having sadness, because then we'll never know what it is to be happy. It becomes a new baseline. But we can always look for the happiness even in those days that aren't happy. For myself personally, I think that's when I throw on the roller skates or hop into the Dark Souls, or maybe even just send a message to my buddy Aqueous Erbium. Some days are more challenging than others, but we rise every day, we fight, and I mean, we get to play Dark Souls. So remember, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and avoid doing nothing, whatever you do, because I mean, I'm pretty good at avoiding things, but if I'm doing nothing, word on the street is idle hands are the devil's plaything, and low-key, I don't know, that sounds kind of gay. I'm not really down with what the devil's trying to do with my hands, if that's cool. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you in the next one. Love you. Bye.